The bruised purple sky bled into night, swallowing the ruined city under a veil of darkness. Evelyn tightened her grip on the worn map, breath freezing in the bitter air. Around her, the desolation was absolute. Skeletal buildings loomed like gravestones beneath thickening clouds, and the distant howl of the storm was the only sound. 10 survivors huddled inside the abandoned library, their faces etched with exhaustion and fear. Liam, the medic, checked a dwindling supply of bandages. Noah stood guard near the cracked doorway, rifle steady. Sophie whispered prayers no one believed in. Marcus fidgeted with a crowbar, fingers trembling. "We can't stay here," Evelyn whispered, voice brittle but steady. At first light, we moved toward the radio tower. If anyone's left out there, that's where we find them. The shapeshifters were closing in, creatures born from a plague that turned humans into monsters, fluid and merciless. Their forms shifted like smoke, blending nightmare and flesh. Outside, the cold gnawed at the bones of the world. Inside, fear gnawed at the souls of the living. The group spent the long night in uneasy silence. Every creak and shadow set their nerves on edge. Outside, distant screams echoed to the howling wind. When dawn finally cracked the sky, pale and cold, they moved out, stepping into a world transformed into a war zone of ice and terror. The journey was slow and dangerous. Streets were littered with debris and the remains of those who hadn't made it. The air smelled of rot and burnt flesh, the constant threat of the shapeshifters lurking unseen. Evelyn kept her group tight, instincts razor-sharp. The radio tower was miles away, through streets that twisted unpredictably, as if the city itself was alive, shifting, reshaping, hiding dangers. Each step deeper into the ruined city was a step into darkness. Both without and within by midday, the survivors reached the outskirts of a crumbling hospital, a towering skeleton of stone and steel. Evelyn motioned for the group to halt. "This place, it used to be a refuge," she said, eyes scanning the broken windows and scorched walls. "Maybe the radio tower's inside." Liam checked his watch, tension in his hands. "We don't have long. The infection spreads fast, and the shapeshifters, they're hunting in packs now." Noah nodded grimly. "We need to move carefully. This building could be a trap." Inside, the hospital was a maze of shadow and silence. Faint lights flickered from dying machinery. Bloodstains marked the walls, smeared and dried. Strange symbols were scrawled in panic. The survivors found a sealed basement door marked with biohazard warnings. Liam forced it open, revealing a dark stairwell leading down. The air was thick and cold, filled with the hum of machinery and the faintest whisper of voices. Or was it just the echoes of memories trapped in these walls? In the basement, the group uncovered a secret laboratory. Dusty files, broken equipment, and notes hinted at desperate experiments, attempts to contain the plague, but also to weaponize it. Evelyn read aloud from a tattered report. Project Morphus, DNA reprogramming for adaptive biological warfare. The truth settled over them like a shroud. The shapeshifters were not a natural plague. They were the result of man's hubris and cruelty. Suddenly, a chilling growl echoed nearby. The hunt had begun. The chase was relentless. The hospital's corridors twisted and warped, the building seeming to reshape itself. An organic labyrinth designed to trap. Caleb fell, grabbed by unseen claws. His screams were cut short, swallowed by darkness. Panic surged as the survivors scattered, shadows flickering at the edge of their vision. Evelyn fired blindly, heart pounding. One by one, the group was forced deeper underground, to a chamber pulsing with unnatural light. Strange machines surrounded a glowing tank, inside which floated a small, shifting form. A child. Subject 0. Evelyn's voice faltered. This is where began the first. The child's eyes met hers, human yet alien, the infection's origin, and perhaps the key to their salvation. But salvation was a fragile hope in a world ruled by shifting shadows and whispered lies. The glowing tank illuminated the dim chamber, casting eerie reflections on the walls slick with moisture. The child inside floated suspended, limbs shifting subtly, sometimes human, sometimes grotesque. Evelyn's breath hitched as she studied Subject 0. Why does it still live? How? Liam shook his head, eyes wide with dread. It's the source, the original carrier of the mutation. Whatever this virus is, it's adaptive, evolving constantly. Marcus paced nervously, voice low. And what if it's calling to the others, drawing them here? A sudden shudder rippled through the building. The hum of machines intensified, and the walls seemed to pulse like a living thing. "We need answers," Evelyn said firmly, "or we're as good as dead." Noah moved closer to the tank, scanning the child's form. "Look," it's trying to communicate. The child's eyes flickered, projecting images into the room. Flashes of a laboratory, frantic scientists, and a masked figure injecting something into a young boy's arm. Experiment failure. The child's vision whispered in a ghostly voice. Sophie swallowed hard. This was no accident. Suddenly, the chamber doors slammed shut. The lights flickered violently, plunging them into darkness. A new growl echoed, closer, more menacing. Shadows shifted along the walls, taking shape. The shapeshifters had found them. Chaos erupted as the group scrambled for cover. The hospital corridors warped, twisting at impossible angles, turning back on themselves. It was as if the building itself was alive, reshaping to trap and confuse. Evelyn fired her pistol blindly, bullets tearing through shadow and flesh. Derek screamed, clawed by unseen hands. Olivia vanished into the darkness, her fate unknown. "We have to get out," Evelyn shouted, voice cracking with desperation. "Follow me." They stumbled through the maze, every turn revealing new horrors. Twisted forms caught mid-transformation, echoes of tortured screams, and walls smeared with alien blood. Marcus gripped his crowbar tightly. This place is a nightmare. The pulsing light from the lab grew faint, replaced by cold, suffocating silence. Noah stopped suddenly, eyes fixed on a flickering screen. "Look at this." On the cracked monitor, a video loop played. Scientists arguing over the ethics of the project, desperate to contain what they had unleashed. "They lied," Liam muttered. "It wasn't just a cure, it was a weapon." Suddenly, the screen shattered as a massive claw smashed through, knocking them back. The survivors barely escaped the collapsing room, breath ragged, hearts pounding. Evelyn looked around, counting heads. 10 became 8, then 7. Fear was no longer an option. It was a prison. "We have to keep moving," she urged. "The radio tower is our only hope." Sophie's voice trembled. "But what if the shapeshifters are inside us? What if one of us is already changed?" A heavy silence fell. Liam rubbed his arms, pale and sweating. "I've been feeling strange. Nights filled with nightmares, memories that aren't mine." Evelyn's eyes narrowed. "We'll find out. If we can get to the tower, maybe we can send a message. Maybe help is still out there." The group pressed onward, through snowdrifts and shattered streets, ever watched by unseen eyes. In the ruins of an old subway station, they paused to rest. Exhaustion weighed heavy, but even sleep was haunted by shadows. Julian's voice was barely audible. What happened to the world? How did we let this happen? Tara stared into the darkness. The virus, or whatever it is, it's not natural. Someone made this happen. Olivia, shaken but resolute, whispered, "And someone's still controlling it." Evelyn clenched her fists. "Then we need to find who and stop them." Suddenly, a shrill scream tore through the tunnels. Shapes surged from the darkness, twisted, fast, merciless. The fight was brutal. Caleb fell protecting Tara. Marcus barely escaped with deep wound. When silence finally fell, Evelyn wiped blood from her face, eyes burning. "We're running out of time. The infection spreads faster than we can fight." The group reached a decrepit government facility, rumored to house old research data. Evelyn hoped answers awaited. Inside, walls bore scars of violence and decay. Files and computer terminals flickered sporadically. Liam hacked into a terminal, uncovering data fragments. Experiments dating back decades, involving genetic manipulation and shadowy organizations. One file caught Evelyn's eye. A photo of a young boy with piercing green eyes. The child in the lab tank. The boy's name was Lucas. Her heart pounded as memories rushed back. A buried memory of a child she once knew, lost long ago. "Lucas," she breathed. A chilling thought crept in. Could the child, Subject Zero, be someone she loved? And if so, what did that mean for their fate? Fate twisted cruelly in the shadows of the crumbling facility as Evelyn stared at the photo of Lucas, the boy whose eyes haunted her dreams. Memories long buried clawed their way to the surface. A small hand slipping from hers, a promise broken in the cold light of an uncertain past. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Lucas, it was you all along." The others gathered close, sensing the weight behind her words. Tara stepped forward, eyes wide. If he's Subject Zero, then the infection isn't just a disease. It's a legacy. Suddenly, the facility trembled as distant alarms blared. The Shapeshifters had tracked them here. The walls seemed to pulse with unnatural life, a heartbeat echoing through metal and concrete. "We don't have much time," Noah warned, shouldering his rifle. "They're coming, and they know what we're looking for." Evelyn swallowed hard, steeling herself. "Then we end this, here and now." They rushed deeper into the labyrinthine complex, through corridors thick with secrets and blood. The shadows moved, alive with whispers of betrayal and forgotten sins. At the end of the hall, a heavy door stood ajar, revealing a chamber bathed in sickly green light. Inside, Lucas, or what had become, awaited them. Awaiting the dawn was no longer an act of hope, but defiance. The chamber was cold and sterile, yet teemed with a dark energy that bent reality. Lucas stood, his form shifting, sometimes boy, sometimes nightmare. Evelyn, his voice was both familiar and alien, echoing with power and pain. "You can't undo what's been done." Tears stung her eyes. "I'm not here to undo. I'm here to end it." The Shapeshifter's laughter echoed, twisting through the air like shards of glass. "You think this is an end? This is evolution, rebirth through chaos." The survivors prepared for the fight that would decide their fate, the fragile line between salvation and oblivion. As dawn broke, pale and cold, the battle for humanity's soul began in darkness. The fight raged like a storm tearing to the fragile remnants of hope. Evelyn faced Lucas, his form flickering between child and nightmare, eyes burning with both sorrow and fury. Around them, the others battled shadows that shifted and slithered, shapes too fluid and terrible for words. Marcus swung his crowbar, striking a creature that dissolved into mist. Sophie screamed as something grazed her arm, pain flaring hot and raw. Liam tended wounds with trembling hands, his eyes darting anxiously. "You're not him," Evelyn shouted, voice breaking through the chaos. "You're what they made him." Lucas's twisted smile deepened. "And what are you?" "A survivor, clinging to a past that's already gone." The ground beneath them trembled. Machines hummed as the building itself seemed alive, feeding on fear. "And this now," Evelyn cried, lunging forward. But as her hand reached out, the world fractured, time splintered, and the nightmare revealed a secret even darker than the Shapeshifters themselves, revealed in reflection. The truth came not as a whisper, but a scream from deep within Evelyn's own mind. The fracture in time wasn't metaphorical, it was literal. Around her, the hospital's reality twisted like a reflection in broken glass. Hallways led to moments that no longer existed. Doors opened to memories. She stood once more in the lab, but it wasn't the present. She saw herself, younger, unbroken, dressed in a lab coat, and next to her, Lucas, a real child, smiling, trusting. "Oh, God," Evelyn whispered. "I wasn't just a survivor. I was one of them." Liam's voice echoed from behind. "What are you saying?" "I was one of the researchers," she said, trembling. "I helped create the virus." The air grew still. Even the Shapeshifters halted, watching. The child she had once called Lucas stared at her with betrayed eyes. "You left me," he said. "You promised I'd get better." A memory surfaced, a promise spoken in a sterile lab. "I'll be right back, sweetheart." And then sirens, containment breach, running, leaving him behind. Evelyn fell to her knees. "I didn't know they'd use you." "But they did," Lucas said, his voice layered with countless others. "And now I am all of them." The building screamed. Reality shattered. And Evelyn vanished between worlds. Evelyn found herself drifting through fragments of time and memory. Hospital corridors bled into her childhood bedroom. The cries of the infected echoed alongside lullabies her mother once sang. She was nowhere and everywhere. Around her swirled echoes of choices made and moments lost. Lucas's face appeared in flashes. Innocent, terrified, then monstrous. The boy she had promised to save had become the seed of the apocalypse. A voice broke through the void. "You didn't just create the virus," it said. "You bonded with it." Evelyn turned. A mirror stood before her, and in its reflection, her skin writhed. Her eyes were no longer human. Human no more. She understood what had always been hiding beneath the surface. She hadn't merely survived the shapeshifter attacks because of luck. She had changed, slowly, quietly, from the moment she re-entered the hospital. The infection hadn't just taken root in her. It had awakened something. A connection. She was the first successful hybrid. Not like Lucas. Not like the others. Stable. Conscious. A creature that could shift without losing itself. A bridge between species. In the real world, the survivors fought to escape the collapsing hospital. Noah screamed her name. Sophie sobbed as Liam bled out beside her. Lucas stood atop the rubble, watching the skies as the storm cleared. And Evelyn returned, stepping to the fracturing veil of reality. Change beyond recognition. She approached Lucas. The boy looked up, sensing what she had become. "You're like me now," he whispered. "No," Evelyn said softly, kneeling beside him. "I'm what comes after you." Lucas blinked. "Then kill me." She hesitated. Around them, the storm broke. The clouds cleared. The last remnants of the building crumbled. The surviving group, now just Noah, Sophie, and a dying Marcus, stared in horror. But Evelyn didn't strike. She took Lucas's hand. Together, they walked into the rising sun. And as their shadows stretched long across the frostbitten earth, they began to change. Change was a plan from the beginning. The files in the lab had said as much, buried in technical jargon and redacted lines. The shapeshifters weren't a mistake. They were the next phase of human evolution, designed for a world no longer hospitable to mankind. Lucas was the first. Evelyn, the perfected version. And now they would rebuild. Evelyn turned back one final time to Noah, who stood shaking with his weapon drawn. "You can try to kill me," she said calmly, "but you'll be fighting your future." Then she and Lucas disappeared into the white horizon. Noah lowered the gun, because deep down, he knew she was right. Right or wrong had no place in the world that followed. In the decades after, cities were reclaimed, not by humans, but by hybrids, shifting things. Echoes of those lost. They didn't kill out of rage. They absorbed, remade, remembered, and deep in what used to be the Arctic, now thawed and reborn, a tower of obsidian rose, not from stone, but from flesh and memory. Inside it, a throne, and on it sat Evelyn, not a monster, not a woman, but something entirely new, watching, waiting, changing everything. Differently, the world spun now. Languages shifted, skin melted and reformed, time bent and curved. But peace, strange, humming peace, finally settled over the earth. In the ruins of the old world, a child was born, not from flesh, but from thought and echo. Its first word was not mama, it was remember. And the first thing it remembered was Evelyn and you, because after all, you were always part of the infection. You just hadn't changed yet. The snowstorm howled outside the aging hospital, a relentless white fury that turned the world beyond its walls into a frozen wasteland. Roads were impassable, communications dead, and the outside world had vanished beneath thick layers of ice and silence. Inside, the heavy atmosphere was thick with cold and something far darker. Eris entered the hospital's main hall, clutching the small hand of his son, Denise. His body ached with exhaustion, but the hope of safety kept him moving forward. The boy's eyes were wide with fear, his breath fogging in the frigid air. "Stay close," Eris whispered, his voice barely audible over the storm's roar. The hospital felt abandoned. Faint flickers from failing lights barely lit the peeling walls, and distant echoes of dripping water bounced down empty corridors. A low hum began to rise, subtle at first, then growing into an oppressive vibration that seemed to pulse through the floor. "Dad, you hear that?" Denise whispered, voice trembling. Eris nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. The sound wasn't natural. It was mechanical, but warped. The hum morphed into a whisper, chilling and urgent. "You're not alone here." The words seemed to seep from the walls themselves. Eris spun around, but there was only darkness. The boy clung tighter, shivering. They moved cautiously down the hallway. At the end, a heavy door stood slightly ajar. A faint, flickering light bled through the crack, casting dancing shadows. Eris stepped forward, heart pounding. Beneath their feet, deep below the hospital, something stirred, an experiment long buried in secrecy. A creature, human-like yet monstrous, was awakening. Its thirst for blood was ancient, and a hunger for more than just survival. The door creaked open. What waited inside was far worse than the cold. Eris hesitated at the threshold. The flickering light revealed rusted medical instruments, shattered glass, and walls stained with old, dark marks. The air was icy, tinged with metallic scent that made his stomach churn. Denise whimpered softly. "Dad, please don't go in there." Eris forced himself forward. "I have to check." The hum grew louder, a relentless pulse that seemed alive. It crawled beneath the floorboards, seeping from vents and cracks. Eris's fingers brushed against a clipboard lying on the ground. The paper was damp, ink smeared. Project Helios, Subject 37. Reading the notes, he learned the truth. The hospital hid a nightmare. A secret experiment designed to create a new breed of human. Stronger, faster, bloodthirsty. Suddenly, a high-pitched screech echoed through the ventilation shafts, freezing Eris in place. Denise grabbed his sleeve, eyes wide with terror. "We need to leave," Eris said, turning. But the corridor behind them was swallowed by shadows, figures darting too fast to see. The hospital had changed. It was no longer a refuge. It was a trap. Eris and Denise pressed against a cold metal door, breaths shallow and hearts pounding. The shadows had vanished, but the dread remained thick in the air. "We can't stay here," Eris whispered. Denise's voice trembled. "What is it, Dad?" Eris had no answer. The creature lurking beneath was no mere animal. It was a predator, born of science and madness. Outside, the storm raged, piling snow against the windows like a tomb. No one would find them. Suddenly, heavy footsteps thundered above them, shaking the floor. "We have to move," Eris said, pulling Denise forward. They slipped through winding corridors, the mechanical hum swelling into a roar. Somewhere distant, a guttural growl echoed, a sound not meant for human ears. Every shadow was a threat, every silence a snare. A small chamber swallowed them whole. The door slammed shut with a bang that rattled their bones. Darkness swallowed the space. Denise screamed, but Eris held him tight. "I'm here." Slowly, the lights flickered on, revealing blood-stained walls and frantic scrawlings. From a dark corner, a scratching noise came, soft, desperate. Eris grabbed a broken pipe. Ready? A cage appeared. Inside, a pale, twisted figure with glowing eyes. "Help me," it whispered. Fear and pity clashed in Eris's chest. Monster or victim? The creature's gaze bore into Eris's soul. Despite its twisted form and feral breath, it held a flicker of humanity. "I was like your son," it breathed, "before they made me this." The room trembled violently. The creature broke free, roaring. Eris grabbed Denise and fled into a stairwell, the monster snarls close behind. The nightmare had only just begun. The stairs seemed endless, winding down into darkness. Eris's lungs burned as he carried Denise, the boy sobbing quietly. Behind them, the creature's footsteps pounded, relentless. Suddenly, a blast of cold air rushed past them, icy fingers crawling over skin. A voice whispered from the shadows, "You cannot escape." The hospital shifted around them. Walls warped, corridors twisted. Time itself fractured, the world blurred and twisted. Eris stumbled into a room unlike any before. Walls gleamed sterile and new. Machines hummed with unknown energy. A woman in a lab coat turned, eyes cold and unreadable. "Subject 37 has escaped containment," she said. Eris's breath caught. "What is this place?" "Where past and present collide," she whispered. Behind her, a screen showed images. The boy Denise, trapped in a different time, his eyes empty. The woman handed Eris a file. Denise was not just his son, he was the experiment. Subject 37. The realization shattered him. The creature, it's him, changed. Eris's mind spun. Memories twisted, blending with nightmares. The hospital was a labyrinth of time and terror. Eris found Denise in a shadowed corridor. Now a creature, part child, part monster. "Denise!" he called. The creature's eyes flickered with recognition, then hunger. A battle erupted. Father versus son, humanity versus monster. Blood stained the floors. Screams echoed. The hospital fell silent once more. Eris lay broken, clutching the fading warmth of Denise's hand. Time warped, collapsing the past and future into one frozen moment. Outside, the snowstorm raged on, burying secrets beneath endless ice. The experiment was over, but the nightmare never truly ended.